Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 60. I am your host, Barney Smith of storycomic.com. With us is the highly acclaimed and celebrated illustrator, Jason Lennox.
Thank you so much. That's amazing praise. Wow, acclaimed. I love it. I'm excited. I have a lot to live up to.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, I've listening to some of your previous interviews and just seeing all of your work and checking out your website, and you're now on your 11th Kickstarter, and you're here to talk to us about your latest Kickstarter project, Lords of the Cosmos, issue number 4. And I remember when we reached out, we chatted to each other, and you said, "Hey, Lords of Cosmos, issue number 4." I said, "Oh, I need to check this out." I pulled it up, and I got to tell you, and we talked before we went on the air. I am also a child of the 80s. I would say probably you must have been the class of 93, right?
Oh yeah, you got me. Guilty as charged.
Yeah, see, class of 94, so you're hanging out with a junior. So I always like to put references based off of how old people were in high school. So, and I said, well, so basically we grew up around the same time. We saw basically the same music, the same Saturday morning cartoons, the same toys. Mm-hmm. And when you talked to me about this before I checked it out, and I got to tell you, I immediately fell in love with this. And there's some times when I talk to some, I like their Kickstarters like this, and this I had to back right away when I read this, and I backed the 4. Because I never saw issues 1 through 3, so I
you got to get all the issues.
I got all 4. I think I backed the not the PDF. I got the main one, so I think
you gotta get 9 books. I love it.
Yep, I got. I pledged the $35 level. So, and I gotta say, so Jason, I got lost. I went down a rabbit hole. I looked at all of your. I went to your website. I checked out all of your illustration work. So at jasonlennox.com. Then from there, I went to your Etsy site. I started looking at all of your beautiful prints, and I got to tell you, man, it is a true and genuine treasure and pleasure, I guess, to sit down and chat with you about this. It's like you grabbed everything I wanted to make in a comic book or want to read in a comic book, and you made it. So with that said, do you want to just chat with us how you kind of got into this? Because your main hat that you wear is, correct me if I'm wrong, is illustrator. You first and foremost consider yourself an illustrator. So how did you get into this artwork?
Which are like all the art, or just Lords of the Cosmos?
We'll talk about the Lord of the Cosmos in a little bit, but I want to kind of give our viewers and our listeners a bit of a background on how you got into illustration.
So I'll do this as quickly as I can, because there's some interesting points. So as a very small child, I was very interested in art, and I think I had, from what I understand and things that I've seen when I did when I was a child, I think I had some very a high amount of like raw ability and interest. So that's what really turned my trigger as a kid, just, scrawling on paper. I got put into private art classes as a kindergartner based on the recommendation of my kindergarten teacher. And I was training with a professional artist named Elaine Renna in Southeast Pennsylvania, where I grew up in Lancaster. And I really, I think, took a lot of that raw ability and then started to fine tune it. Over those years, the 80s and 90s, obviously loving the toys, loving cartoons, developed a love for anime, Japanese animation over those years as well. And it all kind of churned together, kid drawing, sucking up pop culture, comics, toys, animation, etc. I'm in high school. I ended up getting into Governor School for the Arts, which was a program for the best of the best in the state of Pennsylvania. So the year after I was there, Zach Quino was there for drama in the 70s. Kevin Bacon was there. The year I was there, Mike Hawthorne, who's one of the guys that does work, he's working on Daredevil now. He's done stuff for Deadpool. He was there the year I was there. So just people off the top of my head that I can think of that you might know. A lot of talented people. I ended up not going to art college. I ended up going to a regular 4-year school called Shippensburg, which is in South Central Pennsylvania, and I got a degree in business. I was doing art while I was at college, designing T-shirts, doing some freelancing. Got out of school, kind of became more of a John Q. Citizen. Just kind of art was there. I was doing less and less of it, and I hit a point, I would say probably around 2002, that it kind of just, I don't know, just kind of went away. There wasn't some incident. There wasn't any, I don't want to draw. I just kind of stopped, kind of like abandoning a car, and I just stopped. And then for the next, I don't know, 7 years, till around 2009, I did no art, like none, zip, zilch. I was consuming art, reading comic books, watching cartoons, watching animation, and I just wasn't doing the art. So even people that I got to know over that time just kind of knew me as, here's our friend Jason. And a couple things happened around 2009, 2010 that kind of people from that I'd known in the past were questioning, like, why aren't you doing art? I kind of stumbled into social media at the time, and I saw that there was people doing art, and I started to kind of find my old peer group and a new peer, kind of peer group, and seeing stuff and saying, why can't I, what kind of rediscovering it in my head. And then I kind of hit this weird point where I was like, I just want to start drawing, but I hadn't done any work in years, really. And I kind of was just struggling to do some really basic things. And I remember actually thinking, I don't even know what to make. And I just was drawing like a sneaker, here I'm going to draw like a flower, just really basic. Like I'm just going to go back to like square one, just draw still lifes. And I remember this was very early in the crowdfunding era. I had backed a project for someone for a movie in like 2007 or 8. And I got an email from Indiegogo around 2010 or 11 that said, hey, we're doing a movie about the greatest dungeon master ever. And it was a movie called Zero Charisma. And that just, for whatever reason, it tickled my fancy. It was in an era when there was like no crowdfunding. So getting a solicitation about one was like, you know what I mean? It was like in the early era of the internet, like, I received an email today, and you're like, ooh, right? And today you're bombarded with 8 million emails. So I actually wrote the director an email, and I said, this is really neat. Here's some work that I did, and I pulled some high school and college pieces together. And I said, hey, could I do some work for you? This is appealing to me. And they said, sounds great. Why don't you make us a piece? We'll use it. And you have a week. And I really struggled to put this one piece together, which is on my website. I think it's one of the very first things I put on there. And it was just a one-shot black and white illustration of just some fantasy characters that said Zero Charisma. And I had forgotten how much I enjoyed doing that sort of thing. And I did it, and I submitted it to them, and they were like, that's great. We're gonna use it in our crowdfunding efforts. And I was like, wow, this is so exciting. And they were like, thanks a lot. And they didn't pay me. I just did it. I was excited to do it. And then I kind of had this, wow, this was so much fun. I want more. I want that feeling. I kind of miss playing, right?
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of like, and now what? And, and then you're kind of like, when will the next thing happen? And nothing was happening. And then I was on a message board when they had those for Heavy Metal Magazine right around the same time. 2010, 2011, and they said that they were going to shut the website down, no message board, because people were basically just bashing the magazine there, and they were going to move it to Facebook. And I ended up talking to a couple people, and there was a fellow that said, hey, like, why don't we get together? And I've done lettering, and I did lettering in heavy metal once, and maybe I could do some writing, and you could do a story. And we made a 5-page story. So I forced myself to make a comic, a 5-page comic. And we put it together, and I said, we're going to submit it to Heavy Metal. And we submitted it to Heavy Metal. And Heavy Metal was kind of like, cool, thanks. And then I did it. That was so much fun. I did a 12-pager and submitted it to Heavy Metal. And I was like, okay, now what? Hey, gatekeeper, help me. And I don't even know if I still have it. I might if I looked for it. It was an email basically saying, this is great. We might use it in about 10 years. We're backed up.
Oh, jeez.
And I remember thinking, well, either this is true, and that's depressing because I hope, you hope you live another 10, you know what I mean? Like, what if I get hit by a bus in the next decade? Like, you start looking at decades, like, will we both be here in a decade? I hope, but like, there's no guarantees. And I'm like, this is an awful long time to wait. Or I'm like, they're just shining me on because it's like, this isn't whatever, and again, maybe the stuff wasn't good enough, other stuff, who knows? And it was like, hey, you know what? Like, we'll put it together in a year. It's easier to say, our people will call you. Don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember being a little crestfallen at the time because I was just like, well, I put all this work into this stuff. And perhaps it wasn't good enough for that, whatever, I guess it wasn't because their editors, said it was on the 10-year wait, which actually the 10-year wait list is now, right? So
yeah, it should,
heavy metal, right?
Yeah.
But I remember at the time having some awareness of crowdfunding. And I was like, well, you know what? If I'm waiting for other people and I've wasted all this time not drawing because now I'm in my 30s, that like, do I really have the time to keep waiting forever for more people that I don't know, that don't care about me to say, hey, stranger, let's help. And so when I, in my real job, I do commercial and industrial sales, and I've done construction management. So I'm used to, understanding that world very well. And I thought, I got to treat this art thing like I treat my job. I can't wait for these people that I don't even know. And let's be real, they don't care about me. They're not my friends. They're basically just a bunch of strangers that they're all looking out for themselves. And I don't say that in some like boo-hoo way. I think everyone's going to look out for themselves. And I'm like, these people are going to help themselves. They're not here to help me. So the only person that I know is going to help me is me.
Right.
And right. So I'd done a lot of printing at work with blueprints and things like that. So I reached out to this local printing company and I said, can you print a book? And they were like, well, show us what? And so I brought all these files in and I said, could you make a comic book? And they, pulling out a tape measure and they said, yeah, we could make this. And so I tried to figure out what it would cost. And then I tried to figure out what it would cost to color the story, right? That we'd put to the larger story that we'd put together, 12-pager. And I was like, I will use Kickstarter and I will crowdfund this to get some money. And I remember my wife at the time was like, people are going to give you money for this. I don't understand. Like, she was kind of blown away, but like, she's like, people aren't going to give money for this because it was at the time I wasn't doing art. I didn't have kind of the more pay people around me, the clientele, the fan base. I hadn't even done one show yet because it was definitely before my first show as an artist was June 2012. I remember that date specifically in Scranton, home of the show The Office.
So is this your Kickstarter? Was this Through the Eyes of Griselda? Is this the one that
okay. That's what we're talking about. So, and I'm probably mismatching some of the dates a little bit, but I'm trying to get them. And when was that? It was funded
2012.
Well, okay, 2012.
May 2012 was the delivery date.
Yeah, and then my first show was in June 2012. So I got that done, and I remember going to the show. Well, I remember being like, I got money, and at the time, like doing a crowdfunding, my wife was confused, and I remember a couple of people saying, "Why don't we just give you money? Like, why can't we just give you cash?" And I remember saying, "I think it's the platform that makes it work." And so I crowdfunded. I made the book and I went to a show with a stack of books, and I think I sold like 15 books at a one-day hotel ballroom show. And it was like people were like, I like this book. And I started to realize at that time, which is now like about, almost 9 years ago, that if you want your own fortune, don't wait for the gatekeepers, do it yourself. Right. And from that kind of humble stumble beginning into wandering in a world that I didn't really, understand. There was no one there really to show me what was going on. I just kind of stumbled into it, and it's grown from there. Part of the journey is meeting other professionals, other people to guide and inspire you, and that turned into collaborators. Where I kind of waltzed into it, just kind of being a lonely solo character. Saying I'm just going to scroll on these things. I don't know anyone. I don't know anything. I have no professional connections. They're current, to the latest book, Lord's 4. I think we had like 22 people worked on the book where I'm drawing, writing, and being like editor.
Right.
So I mean, that's been the 9-year journey from 2012 to really 2011, 2012, because I was working on those books in like 2011. 2012 is when it kind of became public. And I remember a friend of mine who's since passed away, Kurt. He and I had lunch at a Chinese restaurant, and I remember he was starting to see me do art, and I was doing figure drawing to really kind of get my skill set back around that time too, frequently. And he goes, I've known you now for all these years since you moved to state college, and I've known you for 10 years. And he goes, I had zero. Where was this? And I said, I was doing a little bit in the side. You didn't know about it, but this is me kind of coming out to say, yeah, I'm art guy. And when I was a kid, and I'll never forget. He just is like, he goes, you're always going to surprise me, brother. He said it was just strange. And, again, from that 2011 where I was making stuff to kind of come out publicly in 2012 with like, I have a book,
Right.
I have art, where it's grown to, crowdfunding thousands of dollars, 10 more projects, building Lords of the Cosmos, 3 art books, 3 anthology books, a full black and white Western, 150 or whatever it is prints. I mean, there's prints that have been retired. I think there's like 100 and some on the Etsy store. Jason merchandise, Jason stickers, Jason t-shirts, Jason appearances. A couple famous clients where, again, like, to me, if my art, like, one of the things I love about artists, number one, is their art, but 2, I love the journey. And I think, if there's one thing that other people could take from my journey is one, it's never too late to start again. And secondly, don't wait for anybody to tell you it's okay. Just go do it, because the longer you're waiting for other people, the longer you're going to just sit, gather, and dust. So, I mean, all this stuff that you see all started from a guy saying, I need to get my chops back together and make stuff. I don't. And I remember all those years ago thinking, I don't even know what to draw, to the point now I have so many ideas and so many things to do. It's like I'll never have enough time to do them. So, I mean, it was reactivating my mind, reactivating my creativity, and at the same time, applying the business lessons and the marketing and the sales and the organization to art. One of the interesting things about the process of doing a Kickstarter is that you're out publicly. And I love these interviews, and I love, meeting new fans and new people. And one of the most interesting parts of this process was one of the people that is really special to me in this book is Ariel. And Ariel is a graphic artist from Los Angeles. And he designed all the marketing for this book, and he's one of our stretch goals. So he's going to do a special piece of art just for this book because we hit $7,000. And he has been doing a really cool one-on-one interview show. And I'll share this with you because it really has stuck on my head, where he said, your art to me is very interesting and it's very unique because you developed a full-time profession and a career doing business, right? And marketing and sales and management. And he goes, in your art basically is almost like this thing that is on the side, and that you don't necessarily need it to pay the bills. And he goes, so your art exists almost in this special bubble that you've allowed it to grow now for 10 years, 9 years, 10 years, whatever, however you want to slice it, that your art exists separate. And he goes, it's very different because a lot of people, they do depend on it for a living. And not that I don't make money off it, because it's done well and it has made money, but it isn't like, if I don't draw this picture, I can't, eat. And that's a different position where you might say, hey, I got to turn on the lights. So if I got to draw, still lives of people's kids to pay the bills, well, then that's what you have to do. And I would never knock any artist for doing what they got to do to pay the bills. But I'm always curious, what's here, right? Like, what is it you really want to do? And it was really interesting because all these interviews are like psychoanalysis, where I'm like, wow, I'm really learning about me, right? And, Ariel had that observation that actually has really stuck with me through this whole process of doing all these wonderful interviews and podcasts, where I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. But I have kind of had a very strange kind of journey from like where I was, even from a little kid, to this interview, right? Where it's like there was art, it was there, it was really important, then it kind of left, and then it came back. Because a lot of people might just like let it go and then it never comes back. And with art, unlike athletics, like, it isn't like, well, I'm too old to play football. It's like, no, You can keep doing stuff, and you can be really old and do this stuff. You could do it till you die.
Right.
So I think I do have a very unique journey, and there's lessons to be learned. But again, from my point of view, it's been a very interesting journey to even see where the artistic Jason is, and he is kind of a free guy, and that he does stuff that he, talking about himself in the third person, but he does stuff that he wants to do, and that's how something like Lords of the Cosmos, I think, has had such a fun impact for people, because it's all hard. There is no, well, we got to do this for the marketing. Like, you're getting a raw jolt of like what is in my head as a kid of a certain age, like you are, to say like, this is what's in my head, and I'm going to just put it out. And you may not like it. You may say, this isn't my cup of tea. I don't like Lords of the Cosmos because I don't like this stuff. But at least you're getting a straight shot. You're getting someone's actual vision without any constraints. There's no one saying, sorry, Jason, like, this isn't marketable. We got to change it, or we don't like this or that. The fans have provided me the funding to give the vision that I have, and has allowed me to bring together an amazing group of talented people to not only help me, but to share their visions under this umbrella. And, one of the things I'm thankful for that I found my art is that, and I love my art, but I feel so lucky that all these wonderful people that have either I've just been friends with, or gotten to work with, or have worked for me, I would have never had them in my life had I not rediscovered my art and had this journey. So it's a special journey to me, because I love it, and I love the actual product, and I love all my superheroes and villains and all that. But the people, even just talking to you, Barney, like the fact that Ben, you've been doing research on me and stuff, man, like I like that like, honestly, like that, like I'm getting the feels, man. Like it's like I'm like, I'm a little choked up, man. It's really cool that you took all that time to like research, and like you knew about Grizel. Like, that's so cool. Yeah. So I mean, so that's kind of the Jason story in a nutshell. That's a big answer to one question, right?
So do you feel like, in a way, when you mentioned earlier about submitting those stories to heavy metal,
Mhm.
do you feel is almost like a blessing in disguise that they kind of turned you down? Or do you, like, if they took your stuff, do you think your journey would have been on a completely different trajectory? You wouldn't have done independent publishing or Kickstarters, or
Well,
how would you foresee or predict how your life would have been different?
I think that's a great question. I don't think there's anything bad that happens on these kind of journeys, as long as you take it for what it is. That work probably wasn't good enough to be in that magazine. I mean, to be honest. And I think maybe at that time it was a good humble, right? Like you're coming out of the gate, like you think you're really good, like, and you're doing work, and that's good, but like you went right for like this big famous thing. I probably needed a humble. Had they put it in, might have been totally different. Who knows? Maybe I would have been sucked into maybe doing more freelance, work for hire stuff. One of the exciting things about being a creator is building that thing that's yours. And Lords has definitely morphed into a gigantic sandbox of mayhem, much bigger than I would have anticipated, since we started mucking around with it back in 2016. And so no, had they blessed me with that opportunity, I probably would have been in a different path. I've actually never quite thought about that. And here's the thing. I mean, those guys, they did nothing wrong at all. I mean, it was like a professional thing. And I think the 10-year thing, it was either, I mean, who knows, maybe it was true, or maybe it was just a gentle way to say, hey, this guy's a nice guy, but it's not our cup of tea. I mean, here's the thing. Art's in the eye of the beholder. Like, I don't know, maybe they just didn't like what it was. I just think the books are cool. If I could redo those stories, they'd probably be better done, but it's the best work I could have done at the time. And it forced me to work and be creative, and learn to work with a smaller team. But yeah, I think had that gone that way, I definitely don't think I would have gone down the Lord's path. And, that would be a loss too, because the Lords of themselves are pretty cool. And I think there's more and more to come with the Lords of the Cosmos. That, I mean, the fans have shown up more for this than they ever have for anything I've done. And every time we do more, it just kind of builds a little bit more momentum. And honestly, the momentum starts to feed our excitement and creativity, to say like, okay, like, do people like this? We got to do more. That's a great question.
And so let's talk a little bit about Lords of Chaos. And this is amazing. So as you said, this is issue number 4. And for those that are listening or watching this, you can get all 4 issues if you want to. So that's always a plus. And as you said, this has gone above and beyond your other goals for your previous ones. You're now at, you're already over 7,000. Your goal was to hit 4. So,
I never did one that went over like 47 something. So I mean, this has shattered everything that we've done beforehand.
All right, and talk to us about kind of walk us through a bit about what would the backers get from the Lords of the Cosmos for those that are backing it, what would they get for this?
So to me, the people that I try to think a lot about for these, because we've done more and more, is that if someone stumbles into it, which you did, is to say, how can I make this easy to help people catch up?
Right.
Because we're not a major publisher, we don't have like the muscle to say this will be in every store in America. So part of that challenge is to say that in a year this could all be brand new to more people, which is going to happen. So you can get all the books as a PDF for $15 and all the books in print for $35. That way it makes it pretty reasonably priced to say, hey, I just stumbled into this on Tuesday. I want it. Some people want PDFs, some people want print. And I try to cater to both. So we tried to make that as easy as possible. Now, look, there's T-shirts. There's going to be pins now in the add-on menu. There was some demand for Lords of the Cosmos pins, so we're going to have some pins. Okay, that's add-on stuff. You can get original art, sketch covers, prints. One guy, and I don't know if he's backed it, Jim, Osprey movie size poster of one of the covers. So, I mean, there's all kinds of bells and whistles, cover art, things of that nature. Sasha, an artist we brought in from Italy, did some amazing pages. His pages are all available too. So a couple of those have sold. So again, if you want to go sock some loot into this thing, you can knock yourself out. But to me, what I really try to think about is we want new people to come with all the fans that have been there, but to try to make it easy for them to get on, because there always is some level of gatekeeping when something's existed for a while. I want to be like the easiest like, come on board. We want to make this easy. Like, we were the gatekeeper saying, come on in. The last thing I want to do is make it hard for someone to come in, because they're going to keep coming. The more that I get to do interviews and talk to people such as yourself, hopefully it broadcasts to more people that, someone that we've never heard of or met that is physically far away from where I would have done shows at, hears this and says, whoa, this seems really cool. This is what the stuff that I want to read. I really like this kind of stuff, that the art looks cool. How can I get caught up? So we want to make it as, as non-gate kept as possible. So it's right. Like, come on in. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. So, I mean, heck, even if someone's like, Jason, I have some questions, ask away, man. Ask away. Tweet at me, Instagram, comment, Facebook, blab, whatever. So, I mean, like, I will try to make it as easy and as painless to get new people to come on as I possibly can. Now, at some point, maybe it will become a little difficult if we keep doing more and more and more, where it's like issues 1 to 7, issues 1 to 10, but I think that's a good problem to have, because it means you're not going to have material. But that's the biggest thing, is how can I make this easy for the new person.
So this is split up into 4 stories. You have your main story, and then there's 3 other stories. And correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at your past Kickstarters, your past issues of the Lords of the Cosmos, that's one main story is the continuing story, but some of these other ones aren't really continuing from previous issues, correct?
That is correct. So there's a little bit of heavy metal DNA in this book, where I love the anthology format. I think heavy metal is one of the funnest comics of all time. If you've never read it, go buy some. Right. I also love 2000 AD, and I love Judge Dredd. And 2000 AD is a little bit different, because they tend to, and I'm speaking maybe a little out of turn, 2080 fans would beat me up, but my impression always was they were more themed anthologies. Whereas, so Lords of the Cosmos is an anthology like a heavy metal, but it's all Lords of the Cosmos. So it's that kind of anthology. So I love anthologies for a lot of reasons. So the DNA of these books goes back to some of those classic, Tales from the Crypt, heavy metal, 2000 AD, but with a theme. So it's like, it isn't like, well, there's a horror and a Western. Like, no, everything in this book is Lords of the Cosmos to kind of a central theme.
Right.
But it's different people, different, perspectives with a little bit of editorial oversight to make sure that people don't do anything that's too far out of bounds. But those out of bound markers are pretty darn wide. So to get outside of them, you would almost have to not be doing Lords of the Cosmos at all. So like a Hallmark movie wouldn't fit in here.
Right.
So yeah.
And you had, is this all, as you mentioned, is this like all these stories are part of the same universe? Like they can have that ability, even in your previous issues. They're
Yep.
all the stories are okay. All right.
So what had happened was when we were working on the guts of Lords of the Cosmos issue 1, Dennis and Jason, the other two creator owners of the property, they started throwing out more ideas, and I was just, I can't get all this done in a timely manner. It's just too much.
Right.
And one of the things that I had to grow up and learn was letting my toys go, because as we talked about the show beforehand, or before the show, we're 80s kids and I loved all my toys and I was an only child. So I think it was hard for me to share my toys. And the Lords of the Cosmos now are like this crazy toy set that's been in my head. And I remember wanting to do everything that Jason and Dennis had far out ideas for, but then you just start looking at, like, we have a second child now, full-time job. I'm doing other freelance illustration stuff. I'm doing my prints and posters and everything else. And you're like, I can't give the Lords of the Cosmos the love that they need to take these ideas. It just would never happen. And there's a scrap heap of great ideas that all the creatives in this country are piling stuff on every day. But when I went back to my professional management, sales, learning all this stuff, working for a Fortune 200 company out of college, and like training and learning, and this is how you do things. And that training is for sales guys going into the industrial world. It's kind of like going in a boot camp. Like, they teach you how to run things. They teach you how to get stuff done. And nothing's worse than an unfinished project. And one of the things that people seem to have noticed about me is they're like, everything you do gets done. Like, it is completed product. So I'm very measured with what I commit to, and I'm very measured with not overcommitting. So at that time, with Dennis and Jason having all these ideas, I really wanted to do them because it's like, those are my toys. These, this is my stuff.
Right.
And it was like, but is it going to cheat the project and never get done? And it was like, what if we brought in other people? And it was actually kind of hard to let it go. And I did. And I felt very awkward about it. Like I was in some way failing because I wasn't doing every single thing. And that is a disease in the management world called micromanagement, where you don't trust anyone.
Right.
And I had to learn to let it go. And one of the things too is that then you have to realize that there are people that could be technically better than you at just drawing. And a younger Jason might have been, jealous or something, but as opposed to being that way and viewing it as a competition, it was like, grow up, be mature, let your stuff go, and bask in these people, bask in their success and their talent. Different way of thinking. It's like be a grown up, not a child. And that was kind of an internal process. That the first issue of Lords of the Cosmos was a very growing project for me. There's a lot of stuff that I could look at that book and critique now, but for me personally, there was a tremendous amount of learning how to bend, give, share, and allow myself to be a team leader and not just a solo act. And on the prior anthology books, it was a little different because the people that were doing stuff on those books, it was just people kind of doing their own thing completely separate. And then it all kind of got mashed together. Whereas this was like, this is more oversight. So while they're anthology books, the Ugly Studios things were really like heavy metal, where it was like, you know, horror, Western, science fiction, whatever. And it was some friends of mine just all kind of jamming stuff together. And then Lords came on, and it was like the Jason project of like, no, you're running the whole thing. Now you're writing. Now you're editing. Now you're doing continuity. Now you're allowing other people to play with your babies. And once I kind of got through that shock, it was almost like, yeah, you know what? Why was I ever like that before? I was being, you know, I was being selfish, immature, petty. Like, open your mind and stop thinking so small. And then we realized that that was the way to go, was to not like, oh my goodness, are we going to bring someone in? Like, no, we want you to come in. Right. So again, I got to look at these books in a personal way to say there was growth on my part to like say, grow up. Don't celebrate, appreciate the diverse talents and points of view and bring it together. And if you really, really love Lords of the Cosmos, Jason, love them enough to let them go and let other people love them too. Because if I got 22 talented people loving them, that's a lot more than I can give them. And like yeah.
And the title itself, is it kind of a play on Masters of the Universe?
100%. So what had happened was at the very beginning, when Dennis and Jason and I had a little soup bowl going with like, what is this? It was, what are we going to call it? And I remember we literally wrote the words Lords of the Cosmos on like kind of a joint email. And it was like, what could we call it that would be different? And it was, we were like just using a thesaurus to just pull words out and just like swap stuff out. And it was like, okay, Lords of the Cosmos. And I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. Like, it's enough that people like their lizard brain will say, I remember that. It's familiar, but it's like different enough that it's like, okay, I get it, but it's not a complete, it's different enough, right? It's different enough that it's not like, oh, it's Master of the Universe, you know, or something like that. Where it's like, that's stupid, but it was different enough. But we wanted people to get it, but just like you did, like, is that connected? Like, that's exactly what we wanted. Like, and that's all we did. It was so generic. It was just zip. Here's the words.
Right.
That was it. There's nothing much more to it than that.
And so talk to us. What do you want to kind of go through us like your pledge rewards and kind of give folks a chance? And it's like you got like 5 days left. So this ends like Saturday.
I believe it ends the 22nd at 2, which I think is Monday.
Oh wow! Okay, all right.
They got all weekend. So
okay.
We got pledge without a reward. Tip jar. Which, there's always people that like to just throw in a buck, and hey, I love it. It's like you're playing a piano at a bar, right?
Yeah.
We've got some early birds, which I guess are still left. Wow.
Early bird PDFs. Okay.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah,
there's one left. Okay.
There's people I think that are paying the more expensive non-early bird stuff because they're not paying attention. Shame on you. It's like you left your coupon at home.
Yeah.
So we have the digital copies, right? And some people are regular, so they just want, like, I just want the new issue. So there's a print or PDF of the new issue, and then there's the let's get everything, right? We already discussed that.
Yeah.
And there you're on the Ugly Studios Saturday morning cartoon ad, and Barney, that should hit you right in the feels, man.
It does,
like,
yeah,
boys.
There he is. Yeah.
See, and there is Griselda from issue 1 of Eyes of Griselda, right?
Yeah. Oh
man, she's a show, right?
Yeah.
See her in the corner.
Yeah.
Keep going down.
Right there.
True story, right? When I was saying about my journey, and I got to tell this story because I love my man Joe. So when we were doing Ugly Studios Presents 1, I had it in my head that we wanted to make a map for Griselda the cat. And I literally went to this freaking Linux Windows-based website that looked like something out of like the 80s that was called like cartographersworkshop.com. And I went on, I said, I need someone to make me a fantasy map. And this guy, Joe, was like, I'm starting to do maps. And he said to me, I'd make a map. And I said, cool, I like you. And then I just started talking to this guy, and he's in Cleveland, Ohio. And I told him what I was doing. And I think talking to me, and you should have Joe on, he's a heck of a great guy, and he's making comic books, and he's he's the guy that did Last of My Kind for this book. I love Joe. Is that he told me that he had stopped drawing for a long time, and this was like in 2012, 2013 ish.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, or no, it was been in 2012 because he put that map in the first the first Ugly Studios book I sold in 2012. And he said I got him fired up to start drawing because he had quit drawing, and I've infected him. I think my wife would say I've ruined his life by getting him to draw. And he was one of the guys that we said we're going to be Ugly Studios, and he's been with me on like every project in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's just a pinup. He's done a bunch of books. So one of the add-on rewards is every Ugly Studios book, including a bunch that he's done on his own using our little label that we made up on this crazy journey. Where I remember when he told me that he started doing this stuff because he saw what I was doing, and he said it got me inspired to not do nothing. Like he
Right.
said, I got sick of doing nothing, and I'm paraphrasing. He's a great interview. You should have him. But he said, you got me fired up to go do it again and draw. And and to this day, and this really sounds like an after school special from the 80s, is that I remember when he told me that was one of the coolest things another artist had told me, because I think the biggest compliment you can pay another creative is that you inspired me. And to have another guy that I respect his work tremendously tell me that like he started making work because he thought my story was inspiring to some degree, man, that was awesome. So like he did this whole thing you're looking at here, the Saturday morning TV ad
That's awesome.
for the new book. So I mean, Joe's been an amazing part of my life for the last 10 years, give or take, maybe 9. I forget the exact dates, but again, that he's still with us creatively doing stuff and making things to contribute to this stuff is so cool to me, because he made that map for me and it was so cool. And, he's just been knocking stuff out, and I've been to his house. He and his wife have like 3,000 cats. And we went to a comic book show together in Cleveland. He's a bro, he's a friend, and I love his work, and I love the fact that he's still part of these things. And I hope he is for many years to come. But anyway, I digress. I got stuck in a rabbit hole, but so we were talking pleasure awards. Sorry about that.
That's good. So you and this next one is your pledge at 15. That's your PDFs, issues 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you have, so talk to us a bit about this. So you can get 2 set, like a variant covers. Is that what this one is?
It's weird. When I made the first cover to Lords of the Cosmos, it was kind of this, I didn't know what to make the cover. And I'm plagued by OCD, and I'm plagued by my love of the 80s. And the very first cover to Lords of the Cosmos was like this kind of bizarre, safe choice of almost what you'd have as a basic modeling photo of an actor, but it's Umex, the guy with the tentacles for his hands.
Yeah.
And there's like a little strip of a star, and when you look at it, it's not really the most exciting cover. Again, it's more like this is modeling shot 1A. But in my mind, I was always like, but what if we had like 30 of them and that little star stripe connected them all? And as you got all the books, you'd have every freaking character for Lords of the Cosmos. But at the time, it was just like, yeah, but this cover doesn't really have a lot of jazz to it. I was like, no, trust me, it's going to be cool. And then in the second book, I did the same thing with some of the characters. And then for the third book, I originally had 2 characters together, and then someone got confused in my art like editing group and was like, wait, is the one guy shooting the other guy in the back? I'm like, no, the one is in front of the other. Oh, what? I thought he was shooting him in the back. It was Stinger and Memnon, right? And then I showed it to a couple more people, and I showed it to my wife, and she goes, well, yeah, I thought that guy was I was like, oh, everyone thinks they're shooting each other. I have to separate them. So then we had 2 main covers for issue 3. And then I was like, well, I kind of like this. Let's do 2 main covers. Then I can do more of these character covers. So if you notice on those Kickstarter tops,
right,
it's like, okay, so each one of these things is kind of like a character. Like, so now it's like you could stack them up and say, oh, whoa. So for each book now, I've been doing 2 main covers. So this one now, there's a hero cover with the bio wizard, techno wizard, and his talking eagle and cat. And then there's just Mordanix, the acid tank. So when that tier is like, Jason does 2 main covers. And then one of the things we, again, getting more into building comics and being an editor, is variant covers, where we actually went back and did variant covers for issue 1 once we figured out how to do them for issue 2 with using a different printing company in Arizona called Ready Comics. Like, so again, more resources, more knowledge, bigger team, better stuff. So now, this one we have 4 variant covers and then 2 covers from me. So there's a total of 6 plus a sketch cover.
Wow.
And we may end up having Ariel's art be a variant cover too and do that as a special gift later on. I don't know, but like, again, more people, more resources, more knowledge, and it's the evolution of me not just being an artist, because I think I'm pretty good, but like Jason the manager, Jason the editor, Jason the team leader, Jason the writer. Oh yeah, and Jason still draws. So that's one of the crazy things is that evolution of like, and it's not even giving up what you really like to do, because I really just like to draw, but it's like you start to become like, what do they call it in baseball? Like a 5-tool player. You can like field, bat,
right.
steal bases, deep, whatever. Right? But yeah, this has been the transformation for me between just a guy drawing to team builder, team leader.
And then you have this is the 4 physical copies right
Yep,
here.
physical copies 1 through 4, correct.
Okay. And and then this at the same price, you can get the only issue 4 physical copy and a T-shirt. Okay.
So crazy story there. I remember around 2012 or 13, I was like, I'm going to make a T-shirt it's going to be a Jason T-shirt. And I'll never forget my wife said, she goes, no one is going to buy a Jason T-shirt. I love you, honey, but a lot of you challenging me that you don't think this stuff will work, then it works, right? That's her role in the Jason Lennox sitcom of comic books, it would appear. But every year since 2012, I guess, I've done an annual T-shirt that I usually sell at comic conventions when we had them, and I put dates and shows and things like that. So it's kind of become an annual tradition to get a new Jason T-shirt. So then you can get the Jason T-shirt, which if you scroll down, it's in here somewhere. It's my riff on Black Sabbath Volume 4. And I'm actually working on a T-shirt for this year, which will lampoon the fact that there are no shows. So yes, fans of my T-shirts, there will be a 2021 No More Shows shirt. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you also have the same price. You have you can still get issue number 4 physical copy and an 11 by 17 print.
Yeah, and that was weird because that was actually a fellow that interviewed me on another podcast that I wish that would be a tier, and I don't know if he even backed it, but I said he didn't back it yet. Still 0 backers. I put that on there. Oh, he asked, he didn't back it, so he's gonna have to get a reminder. Why did you ask for this tier and not back it? So I actually got more involved with this Kickstarter, tweaking it and editing it during the Kickstarter to change based on stimulus and feedback, where it's like, hey, could you add this tier? I added it and you didn't back it. Putting stretch rewards. This thing went so fast. We had no plans for stretch rewards. We had put 3 in it during the campaign. So I've actively managed this campaign and added things to it while it's been live because because again, getting better at this stuff is saying, I'm not just going to let this thing ride. If it needs a course correction, let's fix it. Let's tweak it 2%. So, yep.
And then you have, so this is interesting. You get a sketch cover and the digital catalog. And what's involved in the digital catalog?
The digital catalog is always a huge bonus. You can buy the digital catalog as an add-on actually as well. Because this Kickstarter is my first with add-ons. So there'll be a whole menu of things you can buy after it funds. So the digital catalog is every comic book from Ugly Studios. So it's all the stuff that Joe and I have made under the Ugly Studios banner.
Oh, wow.
It's a ton of books.
And you get, and then that Pledge of 52, you get all 4 physical copies and the T-shirt. All right. That's cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at 60, you have 6 cover pack, 2 standard and 4 variants. So is that still issue number 4 though? Right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it says that. Yep, it says that in there. Yep. It's got it. It's got it right. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Yep. And then, so a sketch cover at 72 of issue number 4 and the physical copies of issues number 1 through 3.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you would then hand draw the sketch cover. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you had a limit on that. That's a good idea because you didn't want to. That's a lot
Here's
of
the thing. I
drawing.
love doing the sketch covers, but it's one of those things that I only ever want to do so many. So I try to cap it off around like 15 total.
Right. And then you have also sketch covers for that. Okay, with a T-shirt.
Yep.
So what's the Lennox original art page? What's that?
Get one of my Lords of the Cosmos pages from the book, right?
Wow. Okay.
They're not that expensive. I'm whatever.
Wow. So they would get the original. So they would have. Wow. Okay.
An original Lords of the You can always change your budget if you want to, right?
And then you had the same thing where Sasha original art page.
Yeah.
So that comes
Yeah.
from.
He's
That
tremendous.
section.
He's like a master artist. This stuff is really freaking good.
Yeah. And then for $100, the Lennox sword splash page.
Yeah, which is kind of one of those like super iconic toy images. It's in the campaign. If you
I
scroll
saw that.
down.
Yeah, it was up here.
It's the big sword jammed in a bleeding rock.
Right. I think it was right up. Not that one. And yeah,
there it is. We're close.
Right here.
Yeah.
It's loading. There it is.
There it is. Yeah.
Wow. No one jumped on that one for you yet, huh? Well,
no. Well, I'll be honest. I put that in a little bit late to the campaign because I totally forgot to put it in until like a week and a half ago. And I was like, oh, I got to put that in there. You never know.
And a custom poster and book set. Okay.
Yeah. And Jim, I'll be sending Jim. See, here's the thing. Two people asked for this stuff and Jason puts it in and they'll be getting reminders. Manager Jason's like, they already have their Outlook calendar reminders for me to say, hey, I put this in here for you. You're going to back it.
And then you have another one for the Smith original cover art, issue number 4.
Yeah, okay. and that's and limited one left of one. So yeah, his cover art is that crazy one with like 8 million people being eaten, and that's
right here.
That's $175. That's amazing art.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. It kind of reminds me of like the Mobius. I think.
I could definitely see Mobius. I also am reminded by Jeff Darrow in that piece.
Jeff Darrow in there, yeah. Shanghai Cowboy, yeah. Wow, this is great. So we're already at our hour point. So,
wow.
Yeah. So Jason, tell our viewers and listeners where they can find you if they want to see more of your artwork.
So, and like I'm gonna go in like a trance here. So jasonlennox.com with one N is kind of like the Jason Lennox like archive website. I've been not very active on there recently because of the Kickstarter, but that's a good place to go just to kind of see everything. I log every press appearance, events, portfolio, bio. That's kind of like the Jason Lennox like central.
Okay.
So on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Jason Lennox Illustrator, which is my Facebook art page. If you're feeling really risky, you can try to find my personal page. I'm not hard to find. It's a picture of me holding a Muppet when I'm like, I don't know, 5. It's this washed out photograph of me where I'm a child in the picture. So that's my Facebook page. Instagram and Twitter is @Lennox Artist, right? And then my Etsy store, which you bookmarked it because you are a well planned host. That's Lennox Art Emporium, which I keep all my color prints on there. You can get T-shirts. You can buy Lords of the Cosmos issue 1 through 3. I actually sold some copies during the Kickstarter. I was like, okay,
oh, wow.
Whatever you want. HP Lovecraft art, some 80s fan art that I've done. There's RoboCop. Mythology, Satanism, dystopian art, book literature stuff, all kinds of stuff. It's a neat little store.
Yeah.
I think there's like 100 and some listings on there right now. You can get my T-shirts. Yeah, it's all kinds of stuff. Neat stuff.
Wow, that's great. And so this has been a genuine pleasure, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Barney,
please, I was going to say, please come back. Every time you do a Kickstarter, I'd love to have you be on your tour.
I'll tell you what, we'll do that. But when the next book comes out, or when the book comes out, I'd love to have you read all the books, and then you totally should be like, dude, Jason, I've read issue 1 through 4, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to have that interview too, Barney.
Okay. Yeah. I would love that. Yeah. That'd be
Like,
fun.
put it out. Or I got to point the right way, right? I always get confused with these zoos, right? Like, you got the Fisto and the robot horse He-Man. Like, I need you to read these books and then say, Jason, here's 10 hard-hitting questions. That's what I want to have with you. I mean, and the next Kickstarter for sure, but I'd love to have that interview with you, Barney. And I
Yeah,
have
I'd
you
love that. Yeah.
I have you on my press spreadsheet. Like I said about coming in this with nothing. I keep a press and media spreadsheet. I think I have 149 reviewers and podcasters on that now. And you're on.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I went from like nothing to like, building the Jason art world. So it's like it went from nothing to like, he's rolling. Like he meets reviewers and interviewers and he organizes them. I have a separate MailChimp list just for you guys, and you're on the list. So yeah, and obviously you're back in the book too, but I'd love to come on and have you ask me questions about the books.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, thank you very much, Jason, and good luck. And let's hope we hit 8,000 before
hit 8,000. And Wagner Fernandez will do some sexy pinup art, right? He's going to do some of our characters, and Wagner, like, he likes to draw sexy girls, and we're very toy oriented. We don't have too much cheesecake pinup. So
right.
I hope we get to $8,000 because I'd love to pay him to do some more art for everybody. So back the book, spread the word.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jason. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you. No, my big thing, and it's in front of me. I'm in my rec room. Is like I've started enjoying the world of doing VIP concert stuff where you get to like meet bands. So I have a picture of me with Slayer, me with Lords of Acid, and then me with Black Label Society. And my kids are like, "Those are Daddy's friends." I'm like, "Yeah, me and Carrie King. We're like this. Me and Zach. We're me and Zach. Wow." I love those kids, but like kids get. They're Daddy's friends. No, Daddy paid to get his picture with them, and they're sweet dudes. I don't know if I'd call them my friends. Hey, Zach, can I borrow a cup of sugar?